Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm back at Plum Island today to see what we can see here in mid-August. It's a beautiful sunny day. That's good and bad. Always nice to enjoy the weather. It is going to be crowded on the island today with a lot of people trying to use the beaches. My plan today is to stay more on the northern end of the island and see what we can see there and try to avoid the crowds and the difficult parking situation at the south end of the island. I've been here for about an hour so far, and I've already had some nice sightings. The highlight for sure has to be the huge swarm of tens of thousands of tree swallows. This is a phenomenon that happens every late summer here at Plum Island. The tree swallows congregate here early in the morning. They come out of their roosts and start swirling around, and it's really quite a spectacle. I got some video of it that I hope came out. It's just amazing to see your whole field of vision or the whole screen on your camera just filled with nothing but these little tree swallows. So that's pretty cool. I've also seen a least sandpiper and a couple of ospreys with some fish. The first thing I noticed when I arrived at the Lot 1 parking area at 7:30 a.m. was this huge cloud of tree swallows flying around. There were about a half dozen other people in the parking area just sort of staring in confusion at these birds. I had a couple of people ask me what was going on since I was filming them. It seemed that the swallows had been roosting in the bushes next to the parking area and were now coming out and starting to fly around. After a few minutes, the swallows became a little more organized and they started flying around in a flock, kind of like starlings. A couple times a swallow almost flew right into me. After just a few more minutes, the swallows dispersed into the sky and the show was over. They'll spend the rest of the day flying around catching insects over the salt marshes. So I feel pretty lucky to have showed up just at the right time to see this spectacle. I walked over to the boat launch area across from Lot 1 and got some nice footage of this least sandpiper. The early morning light was great for photography. This willet hanging out on the post was one of only a few willets I saw on this visit. There were a lot more around during my previous visit back in June. Then a few minutes later, an osprey flew over carrying a fish, and I managed to get one good flight shot of both the osprey and the fish. It's kind of an interesting looking fish, actually. If anyone knows what kind it is, please let me know in the comments. After driving just a short distance south, I spotted two ospreys in a tree, each with a fish. One or the other of them was obviously the one I had just photographed. After the first osprey flew away, I switched on to the second one, which then also flew away. I suspect that these are parents with hungry mouths to feed. So I'm in an area of Plum Island that I actually don't visit very often. It's called the Pines, and it's sort of this little island of forest, not all pines, but a lot of pines in here. It provides a lot of shade on a sunny day, so sometimes the birds come in here to shelter from the shade. It's actually very birdy right now, mostly with American robins, so there's got to be at least 100 of them in here, but I've seen a few other nice species as well. There's some eastern towhees in here, had an American redstart, so just trying to grab some little photo and video clips of things. American robins are very common birds in the eastern US, and I think they photograph really well. I really like the perch and the lighting in this video clip. I also picked up this nice close-up photo of a black-capped chickadee, another very common bird in the east. The eastern towhees were more difficult to photograph as they were mostly scratching around on the ground in thick cover. This one finally popped up to take a look around, and I got a few shots. The red eyes are pretty neat. The Pines area also has a nice overlook looking west across the salt marshes towards Plum Island Sound. The osprey platform out there is occupied, as you can see. There is at least one osprey chick, maybe two. So, while Plum Island is a great birding spot, it isn't perfect. Here I am approaching the blind that overlooks Bill Forward Pool, one of the best spots in Massachusetts for drawing in different shorebird species. Unfortunately, the blind leaves you about a quarter mile away from the pool. Now switching from my phone to my birding camera with the lens zoomed out, you can at least see the pool now, but you can still barely see the birds. There are, in fact, hundreds of shorebirds out there. This makes the birding pretty difficult. With my lens zoomed all the way in to 500 millimeters, we can finally see some birds. Most of them are semi-palmated sandpipers, but I did find one more unusual bird. So here I'm just cropping heavily into my video footage for a closer look. The larger bird standing in the water is a stilt sandpiper, a new one for my personal year list. It would also be a new bird for the channel life list, but I need to get better shots than this. So let's move on to a different location and find some birds that we can get some better looks at. So I've come a little farther south down Plum Island to this place called Stage Island Pool, and it really is just an amazing sight that we have here with hundreds of herons and egrets out there in the water. There are well over 100 great egrets, about 100 snowy egrets, about a dozen great blue herons, a few different kinds of shorebirds, including greater and lesser yellowlegs out there. So it's really just an amazing sight. So it's getting to be later in the morning, and you can see that these white herons and egrets are so bright and reflective that they're overexposed wherever the sun hits them directly. The same is true for this group perched in a row out in the marsh. I tried turning the exposure on my camera way down, and the results were kind of funny. The birds are still bright white and overexposed, while the rest of the scene looks like nighttime. So really, you just can't film white birds in direct sunlight. It was great seeing so many of these beautiful snowy egrets all together. They are such beautiful birds, and they're also a new bird for the channel list. So with so many herons and egrets out there, such a large total number of birds, I felt like there had to be something else unusual out there. So I hung around this area for about 15 or 20 minutes just watching and waiting. And I was finally rewarded when a glossy ibis came into view. So I had the wrong light initially, had some kind of silhouetted views of it. Then I walked around onto the road here and managed to get some better video. Seeing this glossy ibis was a real surprise and a real treat for me. This is a new one for my personal year list, and it's also a new bird for our channel life list. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. Glossy ibis was the last bird of the day. A great finish to a nice day of birding. I think I had around 50 species today here at Plum Island. We'll put a link to my checklist down below, and you can click on that and see that, the eBird checklist. But I would say it was a pretty good day. You know, Plum Island is the kind of place where you can actually feel a little disappointed in nearly 50 species. But, you know, I think for mid-August, this was pretty good. And I think things will continue to improve into September and October. So I'll probably come back with another video, you know, in a month or two. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.